Teho stood in the massive crystal chamber, feeling very small. The Galactic Council Senate stretched out before him like a giant dome made of stars. Thousands of aliens sat in floating seats that moved through the air like glowing bubbles. Some had tentacles, others had scales, and many looked nothing like anything from Earth. They all had one thing in common: they were all looking down at the humans. The chamber was so big that Teho needed special glasses to see the other side. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that showed images of space and distant worlds. Everything glowed with soft blue light that made the aliens look even more strange and powerful. Teho had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years now. He spoke 15 alien languages and had traveled to more worlds than any human before him. But today felt different. Today felt dangerous. The Velkan Supreme Chancellor floated down from the highest seat. She looked like a tall, thin tree with silver bark and leaves that changed colors when she spoke. Her voice came from everywhere at once, filling the huge chamber. "The Galactic Council has made a decision," she said. Her words were translated into thousands of languages at the same time. "We must address the problem of aggressive species in our galaxy." Teho felt his heart beat faster. He knew this was about humans. "It was always about humans," the Chancellor continued. "Some species expand too quickly. They build too many weapons. They fight too often. This threatens the peace we have worked so hard to build." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed human space, all the colonies, space stations, and military bases that Earth had built in the last 200 years. Red marks appeared on every military site. "Resolution 4471 will bring peace to our galaxy," the Chancellor said. "All aggressive species must give up their weapons. They must let the Council watch over their military forces. This will keep everyone safe." Teho wanted to stand up and shout. He wanted to tell them that humans only built weapons to protect themselves. He wanted to explain that humans had never attacked anyone first. But he stayed quiet and listened. The Thraxi war leader spoke next. He looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and red eyes that glowed like fire. His voice was deep and scary. "Humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy," he said. "In just 200 years they have spread to over 50 worlds. They have built more warships than species twice their age. They must be stopped before they become a threat to all of us." Other aliens began to speak. Some agreed with the Thraxi. Others seemed worried but said nothing. A few small species tried to defend humans, but their voices were too quiet to matter. The vote was fast. Green lights appeared all around the chamber. As species voted yes, only a few red lights showed no votes. Most of those came from young species like humans species that had little power in the Council. The Chancellor's leaves turned bright gold as she announced the result. Resolution 4471 passes. All aggressive species have 90 standard days to surrender their military assets to Council oversight. Species that refuse will face sanctions and possible military action. The chamber began to empty. Aliens floated away in their glowing seats, talking in their strange languages. Some looked at Teho with what might have been pity. Others seemed happy that the human problem was finally being solved. Teho waited until most of the aliens were gone. Then he activated his secure communicator and sent a message to Earth. The message was short but clear. "They want us defenseless. We have 90 days. Back on Earth, the message reached President So Young in her office in Seoul. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but everyone knew she was tough as steel. She had led Earth through 3 major crises and never backed down from a fight. Jin-Woo, the defense minister, was with her when the message came. He was younger than So Young, but had been a soldier for 20 years. His face was hard and serious as he read Teho's report. "They're not asking," Jin-Woo said. "They're telling us." So Young nodded. "What do we know about other species that face this resolution?" Jin-Woo pulled up files on his tablet. 12 species in the last 1,000 years. 3 gave up their weapons and became vassal states. 5 tried to resist and were conquered. 4 just disappeared completely. Disappeared? No records of what happened to them. Their worlds are empty now. Other species live there. So Young walked to her window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people went about their normal lives, not knowing that their freedom was being threatened by aliens in a crystal chamber light years away. "Call an emergency meeting," she said. "All department heads, all colony governors, all fleet commanders. We need to talk." The meeting lasted 18 hours. Some people wanted to give in and hope for the best. They said fighting the entire galaxy was impossible. Others wanted to refuse right away and prepare for war. They said freedom was worth any price. So Young listened to everyone. She was good at that, listening and thinking before making big decisions. Finally, she made up her mind. "Jinwoo," she said, "do we still have Protocol 7? Protocol 7 was a secret plan made years ago just in case Earth ever faced an impossible threat. Only a few people knew about it." Jinwoo nodded. "We do. But it would take everything we have. Then we start tonight," So Young said. "Send a message to the Council. Tell them we need 1 year to properly catalog and transfer our military assets. Make it sound like we're trying to cooperate." "And really?" asked Jin-Woo. So Young's kind eyes became hard as steel. "Really, we prepare for the fight of our lives." That night, secret messages went out to every human world. Military commanders, engineers, scientists, and workers got new orders. On the surface, Earth would look like it was slowly giving up its weapons. But underneath, humanity would build the largest secret military force in galactic history. The Galactic Council thought they knew humans. They thought humans were just another young species that could be bullied into submission. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In his apartment near the council chambers, Taeho packed his bags. Soon he would have to choose between his job as ambassador and his loyalty to humanity. He looked out at the alien city with its strange buildings and floating vehicles. Tomorrow he would smile and pretend to help with the disarmament. But tonight he sent one more message to Earth. They underestimate us. That will be their mistake. 6 months had passed since the Council's ultimatum. To anyone watching from the outside, Earth seemed to be following orders. Military bases were being shut down one by one. Warships returned to Earth's shipyards for what looked like scrapping. Weapon factories were being converted to make civilian goods, like farming equipment and mining tools. The Galactic Council's monitoring stations reported back with satisfaction. The humans were complying, just like every other species eventually did. Their spy satellites showed the dismantling of defense platforms around Earth's colonies. Their listening posts recorded conversations about job retraining for former soldiers, but they were only seeing what humans wanted them to see. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon, Admiral Hyansu walked through tunnels that officially did not exist. The tunnels stretched for hundreds of kilometers, carved out by mining robots over the past 6 months. Inside these hidden spaces, the largest construction project in human history was taking place. "How many ships do we have ready?" Hyansu asked Chief Engineer Mina as they walked past rows of gleaming warships. Dashna checked her tablet. She was a small woman with oil-stained hands and bright eyes that never seemed to rest. 412 completed. Another 600 in various stages of construction. The asteroid facilities are producing even faster than we hoped. They stopped at a viewing window that looked out into a vast underground hangar. Thousands of workers moved around like ants, building ships that would never appear on any official record. The ships looked different from regular human warships, sleeker, darker, with unusual curves and angles. "The stealth modifications are working perfectly," Mina continued. "Once Young Ho's team finishes the Ghost Wall installation, these ships will be completely invisible to Council sensors." Young Ho was Earth's best physicist and the inventor of quantum phase technology. His laboratory was hidden inside Jupiter's great red spot where the radiation was so intense that no alien ship would dare to look. For months, he had been working on a way to make human ships phase in and out of normal space. The technology was based on something humans discovered by accident while trying to build faster-than-light communication systems. They found that certain Quantum fields could make objects exist in normal space while being undetectable to any known sensors. It was like being invisible and untouchable at the same time. "Sir," a young officer approached them. "We're receiving a transmission from Agent Youngji." Unji was the head of human intelligence, but officially she was just a trade representative visiting alien worlds to negotiate mining rights. For 6 months, she had been traveling throughout the galaxy, supposedly making business deals. In reality, she was building the largest spy network in galactic history. The transmission came through on a secure channel that looked like routine shipping data. Unji's coded message was short but alarming. "The disarmament is just the beginning. Found documents showing the real plan. We'll transmit full details in 24 hours. Hansu and Mina exchanged worried looks. They both suspected that the Council had bigger plans for humanity than just taking away their weapons. Now, it seemed like Yunji had found proof. The next day, Unji's full report arrived. What she had discovered made everyone angry and afraid. At the same time, the Galactic Council was not the peaceful organization it claimed to be. It was a system designed to keep older, more powerful species in control by preventing younger ones from becoming threats. The pattern was always the same. First, a young species would be forced to give up their weapons for galactic peace. Then their territory would be protected by Council forces. Finally, their populations would be slowly relocated to different worlds and integrated into existing alien societies. Within a few generations, the species would effectively disappear as an independent people. 12 species had vanished this way. Their homeworlds were now occupied by other aliens. Their cultures were forgotten. Their languages were dead. "They're not trying to control us," Hyansu said after reading the report. "They're trying to erase us." The revelation spread quickly through the secret human network. On every colony world, in every hidden base, people learned the truth about what the Council really wanted. The knowledge had an amazing effect. It united humanity. Like nothing had before, political differences that had divided humans for centuries suddenly seemed unimportant. Colonists who had wanted independence from Earth now worked closely with Earth's government. Religious groups that had been arguing for decades joined forces. Even criminal organizations offered their help, saying that freedom from aliens was more important than any earthly law on Mars. Former enemies worked side by side in underground factories. In the asteroid belt, miners who had been on strike for months went back to work without being asked. On the outer colonies, separatist movements that had threatened rebellion now sent their best people to help with the secret construction. The unity was not forced or artificial. It came from a simple truth that every human understood. If they did not stand together, they would all disappear together. Taeho played his part perfectly at the council chambers. Every day, he attended meetings about the disarmament process. He smiled and nodded when alien officials praised humanity's cooperation. He provided reports showing Earth's progress in dismantling their military, but some council members were getting suspicious. The Thraxi war leader complained that the humans were moving too slowly. Some Velkan officials wondered why it was taking so long to dismantle simple weapon systems. "Perhaps we should send inspection teams to human worlds," suggested a Christic administrator. "We could help speed up the process." Taeho kept his face calm, but inside he was worried. Inspection teams would discover the truth quickly. He sent an urgent message to Earth. "They want to send inspectors. How much more time do you need?" The answer came back from Jinwoo. 2 more months. Can you delay them?" Taeho thought quickly. "I can try, but they're getting impatient." That evening, Taeho requested a private meeting with several council leaders. He explained that human psychology was different from other species. Humans needed time to accept major changes, he said. Rushing the process might cause panic or even rebellion. It would be better to let humans disarm at their own pace rather than force them and risk violence. The council leaders listened to his explanation. They had studied human psychology and knew that humans could be unpredictable when frightened. They agreed to give Earth more time, but made it clear that their patience was not unlimited. Meanwhile, the secret construction continued at an incredible pace. Mina's engineering teams worked around the clock, building ships in underground factories on dozens of worlds. They used raw materials from decommissioned military bases, claiming they were recycling old equipment into civilian products. Young Ho's Ghostwall technology was installed on every new ship. The first tests were amazing. The ships could phase in and out of normal space at will. When phased out, they were completely undetectable. When phased in, they could fight normally. It was like having an invisible fleet. The real genius of the plan was its scale. Instead of building one large fleet that might be discovered, humanity was creating dozens of small fleets hidden in different star systems. Some were built in asteroid bases, others were constructed in the empty space between stars. A few were even built inside gas giant atmospheres, where no alien would think to look. Each fleet was commanded by officers who had supposedly been discharged from military service. Each base was staffed by workers who were officially unemployed former soldiers. On paper, these people did not exist. In reality, they were humanity's secret weapon. The 2 months passed quickly. Mina's final report to Admiral Hyansu was impressive. 1,047 ships completed, all equipped with Ghostwall technology. All crews trained and ready. The Ghost Fleet is operational. Hyansu looked at the numbers with satisfaction. The council thought they had disarmed humanity. They thought humans were weak and helpless. Soon they would learn the truth. In her office on Earth, President So Young received daily reports from the secret project. The scale of what humanity had accomplished in just 8 months was incredible. An entire parallel military had been built in complete secrecy. Millions of people had worked together without a single leak to alien intelligence. "Are we ready?" she asked Jin Wu. Jin Wu nodded. "As ready as we can be. The question is, are they ready for us?" So Young smiled for the first time in months. "I guess we'll find out soon." The 90-day deadline had arrived. Taeho stood in the council chambers once again, but this time he was not alone. Representatives from Earth's colonies had come to witness the final compliance ceremony. They looked nervous and defeated, exactly as the council expected them to. Chancellor Velka floated down from her high seat, her silver leaves glowing with satisfaction. Around the chamber, thousands of alien representatives watched with interest. This was always an important moment, when another young species accepted their place in the galactic order. "Ambassador Taeho," the Chancellor said in her musical voice, "has humanity completed the disarmament process as required by resolution 4471? Taeho stepped forward with a data tablet in his hands. He looked tired and sad, like a man who had been forced to betray everything he believed in. "We have prepared our compliance report, Chancellor. All military installations have been decommissioned. All warships have been recalled and disabled. All weapon production has ceased." The Chancellor's leaves turned bright gold with pleasure. "Excellent. The inspection teams are ready to verify your compliance and begin the transition process." This was the moment Taeho had been waiting for. Instead of handing over the tablet, he activated a hidden function. The tablet connected to the Council's main communication system, a connection that Yunji's intelligence network had secretly prepared months ago. "Before we proceed," Taeho said, his voice suddenly stronger, "I think the galaxy should know the truth about the Galactic Council." The chamber filled with confused murmurs. The Chancellor's leaves turned deep red with anger. "What are you doing, Ambassador?" "I'm doing what humans do best," Taeho replied. "I am telling the truth." The tablet projected a hologram into the center of the chamber. It showed documents, communications, and records that no alien had expected humans to ever see. The evidence that Unji's agents had stolen from the deepest archives of the Council. The first document showed the real purpose of resolution 4471. It was not about peace, it was about elimination. The document clearly stated that the disarmament was Phase 1 of species, integration protocols designed to prevent emerging threats to establish galactic order. Phase 2 involved the protective relocation of human populations to different worlds where they would be supervised and gradually integrated into existing stable societies. Phase 3 was the cultural absorption process, where human languages, customs, and identity would be slowly replaced with approved galactic standards. The final phase was never written down, but the meaning was clear. Within a few generations, humans would cease to exist as an independent species. The chamber erupted in shock. Many of the younger species had never seen these documents before. They began to realize that the same fate awaited them eventually. The older, more powerful species looked angry and embarrassed that their secret plans had been exposed. But Teho was not finished. The next hologram showed the historical records of the 12 species that had disappeared. Each one had followed the same pattern. Each one had trusted the Council's promises of protection and peace. Each one was now extinct. The Zephyrians were told their disarmament was temporary. Teho said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. That was 800 years ago. Their homeworld is now a Velkan mining colony. The Helix Confederation believed. The Council would respect their independence after disarmament. That was 600 years ago. Their people now live as servants on Thraxi worlds, and their children do not even remember their original names. The Crystal Singers were promised that their unique culture would be preserved and protected. That was 400 years ago. The only traces of their civilization are in Council museums, labeled as primitive artifacts of extinct species. With each example, more alien representatives look shocked and frightened. Many began to whisper urgently to their advisors, probably asking if their own species might be next on the Council's list. Chancellor Velka tried to restore order. These documents are lies. Human propaganda designed to disrupt galactic peace. But it was too late. Teho activated the final part of his presentation, intercepted communications between Council leaders from just days ago. The aliens' own words condemned them. The human problem will be solved within 5 years, came the recorded voice of the Thraxi war leader. Their breeding rate is high, but controlled relocations should reduce their population to manageable levels. I recommend dispersing them across at least 50 different worlds, added a Velkan administrator. No more than a few thousand per planet. That way they cannot maintain their group identity. What about their technology? Asked another voice. Some of their innovations could be useful. We will keep the useful humans as technical advisors, replied the Thraxi. The rest can be integrated into general population pools. Within 3 generations, the human species will be a historical footnote. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the Council's supporters could not deny their own recorded words. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Teho looked around the vast chamber, making eye contact with as many aliens as possible. My species came to the stars hoping to find friends and trading partners. Instead, we found a system designed to destroy any species that shows promise or independence. We will not submit to this fate. You have no choice, shouted the Thraxi war leader, rising from his seat. You are disarmed. You are helpless. The fleet is already moving to secure your territory. Teho smiled for the first time in months. That is where you are wrong. He activated his communicator and spoke a single word. Now. Across the galaxy, humanity's ghost fleet began to appear. Ships that had been invisible for months suddenly became visible as they dropped out of quantum phase. They appeared in 12 star systems simultaneously, surrounding Council military bases and trade stations. The first battle happened at Titan Station, humanity's largest former military base. The Thraxi had sent a full battle fleet to occupy the station, expecting to find it empty and defenseless. Instead, they found themselves surrounded by human warships that seemed to appear from nowhere. Admiral Hansu commanded the human fleet. From his flagship, the Soul, as the Thraxi ships tried to figure out where the humans had come from, he opened communications. Thraxi fleet, he said calmly, you are trespassing in human space. Leave immediately or face the consequences. The Thraxi commander was too shocked to respond immediately. His sensors had shown empty space just moments before. Now he was facing a fleet that was larger than his own, with ships that used technology he had never seen. How is this possible? The Thraxi finally asked. It's possible because you underestimated us, Hyunsu replied. You thought humans were like every other species you've bullied into submission. You were wrong. The battle was over quickly. The human ships could phase in and out of normal space, making them nearly impossible to hit. They appeared long enough to fire their weapons, then vanished before the Thraxi could respond. Within an hour, the entire Thraxi fleet was destroyed, or disabled. Similar battles were happening throughout the galaxy. Every Council military force that had been positioned to assist with human disarmament found themselves under attack by ships that should not have existed back in the Council. Chambers, emergency communications were pouring in from across the galaxy. Panic filled the voices of military commanders as they reported impossible human attacks. Fleet 7 is under attack by at least 50 human vessels of unknown design. The humans are using some kind of stealth technology. Our sensors cannot track them. They're everywhere. How did they build so many ships without us knowing? Chancellor Velka's leaves had turned completely black with rage and fear. This is impossible. Our intelligence services monitored every human world. There were no secret shipyards. Taeho looked at her with pity. Your intelligence services saw what we wanted them to see. While you were watching our front door, we were building through the back door. The truth slowly became clear to the Council leaders. Humanity had not just hidden a few ships. They had created an entire parallel military-industrial complex. The decommissioned bases had been turned into hidden factories. The recalled warships had been stripped for parts to build new ones. The unemployed soldiers had been secretly building and crewing a ghost fleet, but the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Taeho activated his communicator one more time and spoke in a language that made many aliens gasp with surprise. He was speaking Zephyrian, the supposedly dead language of an extinct species. Ghost Fleet Command, this is Ambassador Taeho. You may reveal yourselves. Throughout the galaxy, ships began appearing that were not human. Sleek vessels with crystal hulls emerged from asteroid fields where they had been hiding for centuries. These were the Zephyrians, not extinct at all, but hidden, waiting for someone brave enough to challenge the Council's tyranny. More ships appeared, representing species that the Council had declared extinct or primitive. The Crystal Singers, the Helix Confederation, the Void Walkers, all of them had survived in secret, maintaining their civilizations in hidden fleets and bases. We are not alone, Taeho announced to the shocked Council. We are not the first species to refuse extinction, and we will not be the last. The communication system was broadcasting his words. The galaxy was at war, but it was unlike any war that had ever been fought before. The old rules did not apply when the enemy could appear anywhere and disappear just as quickly. Captain Duhayan commanded the human carrier Soul's Pride as it phased into normal space near the Council's main supply depot at Kepler Station. The massive space station was supposed to be impregnable, protected by energy shields and defended by a full battle group. But the Council's defenses were designed to fight traditional enemies who attacked from predictable directions. All fighters, launch immediately, Duhayan ordered. Remember, we have 15 minutes before their reinforcements arrive. Human fighter craft poured out of the Soul's Pride like angry bees. They were small, fast, and equipped with the same quantum phase technology as the larger ships. The Council defenders had never faced anything like them. The fighters attacked in swarms, appearing inside the station's shields and striking critical systems before vanishing again. Within minutes, the station's power grid was destroyed. Its communication arrays were offline. Its defensive weapons were disabled. Duhayan watched the mission timer count down. 14 minutes, 13 minutes, 12 minutes. Station secured, reported his tactical officer. All Council ships destroyed or disabled. Supply depot is ours. Begin salvage operations, Duhayan said. Take everything useful, then set charges. I want this place to be space dust when we leave. This was humanity's new strategy. Instead of trying to hold territory like traditional armies, they struck fast and disappeared. They destroyed Council supply lines, captured important resources, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. It was like fighting Ghost. Captain Sun He had an even more daring mission. Her stealth destroyer Inchin was approaching a Velkan dreadnought, one of the largest warships in the galaxy. The massive ship was 3 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small planet, but size meant nothing when your enemy could phase directly into your engine room. "Initiating phase jump," Sun He announced to her crew. "Remember, we only get one chance at this." The Inchin disappeared from normal space, then reappeared inside the dreadnought's heavily armored hull. They were now floating in the ship's main reactor chamber, surrounded by the massive engines that powered the alien vessel. "Set the charges," Sun He ordered. 30 seconds and we're gone. Her crew worked quickly, attaching explosive devices to critical systems. The Valkans had no idea that enemies were inside their ship. Their sensors could not detect phased matter, and their security systems were designed to watch for external threats. 20-9 seconds, 28-27. "Charges set," reported the demolitions expert. "Phase jump now." The Inchin vanished just as the explosives detonated. The mighty Velkan dreadnought broke apart from the inside, its reactor exploding in a brilliant flash of light. In less than a minute, one of the Council's most powerful warships had been reduced to debris, but humanity's greatest achievement was not military, it was diplomatic. Yunji had spent months building secret communication networks with oppressed species throughout the galaxy. When the war began, those networks activated on 17 different worlds. Alien species declared their independence from the Council. The Antaran Collective stopped sending tribute payments. The Spiral Union expelled Council administrators from their territory. The Nebula tribes began attacking Council shipping lanes. Each rebellion was small by itself, but together they created chaos throughout the galaxy. The Council's forces were spread thin, trying to fight battles on dozens of fronts simultaneously. The crystic fragments provided the biggest surprise. For centuries, the Council had treated them as primitive miners, useful only for extracting valuable minerals from asteroid fields. The Crysteks seemed happy with this arrangement, working quietly in their mining operations and never causing trouble. The Council had made a terrible mistake. The Crysteks were not primitive at all. They were master engineers who had been building weapons inside their asteroid mining bases for hundreds of years. When the rebellion began, those asteroids revealed themselves to be massive battle stations, with firepower that rivaled anything the Council possessed. "This is impossible," the Thraxi war leader said as he watched his fleet being destroyed by what he had thought were simple mining platforms. "How did we miss this?" "The same way you missed everything else," replied Admiral Hyun-Soo from his command ship. "You saw what you expected to see, not what was actually there." The human admiral was coordinating attacks across 12 star systems from his mobile command center. The ship was constantly moving, never staying in one place long enough to be tracked. It would appear in one system to direct an attack, then vanish and reappear thousands of light years away to coordinate a different battle. "Status report," Hyun-Soo requested from his operations officer. "Council Fleet 7 has been eliminated. Council Fleet 12 is in full retreat. The Kepler station raid was successful. We captured enough supplies to last 6 months. And intelligence reports that 3 more species have declared independence." Hyun-Soo nodded with satisfaction. The war was going better than anyone had dared to hope. But he knew that the hardest part was still to come. The Council was beginning to adapt to human tactics. They were building new sensors designed to detect phased matter. They were developing new weapons that could fire into quantum space. Most importantly, they were finally taking the threat seriously. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from Taeho at the Galactic Core." Taeho had remained at the Council chambers even after revealing the truth about the disarmament plan. His diplomatic immunity protected him from arrest, and his intelligence value was too important to waste. He had become humanity's eyes and ears at the center of enemy territory. "The Council is planning something big," Tejo reported. They're recalling all their fleets from the outer rim. Every ship, every station, everything they have is being pulled back to defend the core worlds. How long do we have? Hyan-Su asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. They're calling it Operation Final Solution? They plan to abandon the outer territories and concentrate all their forces around the most important systems. Then they'll launch coordinated attacks against every rebel world simultaneously. Hyan-Su understood the strategy. The Council was giving up trying to maintain control over the entire galaxy. Instead, they would create a smaller but heavily defended core region. From there, they could launch devastating attacks against any system that opposed them. It was a smart plan, but it had one weakness. By concentrating their forces, the Council was also concentrating their targets. Send a message to all rebel fleets, Hyan-Su ordered. Operation Starfall begins immediately. We're going to attack the galactic core. The message went out through the secret communication networks that humanity and their allies had built. Within hours, ships began moving toward the center of the galaxy from every direction. The fleet that assembled was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships phased in and out of space like flickering shadows. Zephyrian vessels with their crystal hulls moved like living creatures through the void. Crystic battle stations, disguised as asteroids, drifted slowly but inevitably toward their targets. Other species contributed what they could. The Spiral Union provided fast scout ships that could map enemy positions. The Antaran Collective offered their knowledge of Council defensive systems. Even species that could not fight directly helped by creating diversions and spreading false information. The Council's leaders watched the approaching fleet with growing alarm. Their sensors showed thousands of ships converging on the galactic core from every direction. Many of the ships were completely unknown, vessels from species that were supposed to be extinct or primitive. How many ships are they bringing? Asked Chancellor Velka, her silver leaves trembling with fear. Our intelligence estimates at least 10,000 combat vessels, replied the Thraxi war leader. But the number keeps growing, more ships appear every hour. 10,000? That's impossible. Where did they get so many ships? The truth was becoming clear, though the Council leaders did not want to admit it. For centuries, they had been fighting the symptoms of rebellion without understanding the disease. They had crushed individual uprisings while never addressing the underlying cause. Their own tyranny. Every species they had integrated had left survivors who remembered freedom. Every world they had pacified still contained people who dreamed of independence. Every culture they had preserved in museums had living descendants who wanted to reclaim their heritage. The approaching fleet was not just an invasion force. It was the accumulated resentment of 1,000 years of oppression, finally united under humanity's leadership and equipped with technology that made resistance possible. President So Young addressed the galaxy one final time before the battle began. We do not come as conquerors but as liberators. We do not seek to replace one tyranny with another, but to end tyranny forever. To all beings who value freedom, today we fight not just for our own survival, but for the right of every species to determine its own destiny. The Battle of the Galactic Core was about to begin. The Battle of the Galactic Core lasted 3 days and changed everything. When it was over, the 1,000-year reign of the Galactic Council had ended forever. The battle was not won by superior firepower or brilliant tactics, though both played their part. It was won by something the Council had never understood, the power of beings fighting for their freedom rather than their masters' orders. Admiral Hyan-Su watched from his command ship as the last Council fortress surrendered. The massive crystal structure that had housed the Senate chambers for centuries was now dark and silent. Around it, the debris of the Council's final fleet drifted in space like dead leaves. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving surrender signals from all remaining Council forces. Hyan-Su nodded tiredly. He felt no joy in victory, only relief that the killing had stopped. Accept their surrender. Tell all ships to cease fire. The war is over. But winning the war was only the beginning. Now came the harder task of building something better to replace what they had destroyed. President So Young arrived at the Galactic Core 3 weeks after the battle aboard a diplomatic vessel escorted by both human and alien ships. The symbolism was important. This would not be a human empire ruling over subject species, but a true partnership of equals. The negotiations took place in the same crystal chamber where the Council had once issued its ultimatum to humanity. But now the floating seats were arranged in a circle instead of a pyramid, with no species elevated above the others. So Young looked around the chamber at the representatives of over 200 species. Some had been enemies just days ago. Others had been fighting for freedom for centuries. All of them had come together to decide the galaxy's future. "We stand at a crossroads," So Young began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. "We can repeat the mistakes of the past, with some species ruling over others, or we can try something new, a galaxy where all beings are truly free to choose their own path." The negotiations were difficult. Many species wanted revenge against their former oppressors. Others feared that without strong central authority, the galaxy would fall into chaos. Some worried that humanity, having led the rebellion, would simply become the new rulers. Tejo played a crucial role in the discussions. His experience as humanity's ambassador had taught him to understand many different alien cultures and viewpoints. More importantly, his actions during the war had earned him respect from species across the galaxy. "The humans could have destroyed US completely," said the Velkan representative, Chancellor Velka's replacement. "Instead, they offered us a place at this table that tells us something about their intentions." The Thraxi delegation was more skeptical. "How do we know this is not just another form of conquest? Perhaps the humans are simply more clever than the old council." It was Yunji who answered this challenge. The former intelligence chief had become humanity's lead negotiator, using her knowledge of alien cultures to build bridges between former enemies. "Look at our actions," she said simply. "When we captured council supply depots, did we keep the resources for ourselves? No, we shared them with all rebel forces. When we developed new technology, did we keep it secret? No, we made it available to anyone fighting for freedom. When we won battles, did we claim territory? No, we liberated worlds and gave them back to their original inhabitants." Young Ho, the physicist who had invented the Ghostwall technology, made the offer that convinced many skeptical species. "All of humanity's military technology will be shared freely with any species that joins the new republic. No patents, no restrictions, no licensing fees. The knowledge that gave us victory belongs to all free beings." The gesture was unprecedented in galactic history. No species had ever voluntarily given away such a significant military advantage. It proved that humanity's words about cooperation were backed by real actions. Mina, the engineer who had built the Ghost Fleet, proposed the Universal Development Accord. Under this system, advanced species would help younger ones develop their technology and infrastructure, but without any strings attached. There would be no forced cultural changes, no required tribute payments, no surrender of sovereignty. "Every species has something valuable to contribute," Mina explained. "The Christex taught us new mining techniques. The Zephyrians showed us how to build ships that move like living creatures. Even the youngest species often have insights that older ones have forgotten. We all benefit when we share knowledge freely." The new government structure was designed to prevent any single species from dominating the others. The Galactic Republic would be led by a council with representatives from every member species. Decisions would require consensus, not simple majorities. No species, no matter how powerful, could force its will on the others. Captain Duhayan and Captain Sunhee, the heroes of many battles during the war, were appointed to lead the new Republic Defense Force. Their job was not to conquer or intimidate, but to protect member worlds from external threats and help maintain peace between species. "We will never again allow tyranny to take root in our galaxy," Duhayan declared at the Defense Force's inaugural ceremony. "But we will also never become tyrants ourselves. Our strength exists to protect freedom, not to impose our will." The Transformation was not instant or easy. Some former council species struggled to adapt to the new system. They had been following orders for so long that making their own decisions felt strange and frightening. Human advisors worked patiently with these species, teaching them the skills they needed for self-governance. Other species had to learn to trust their former enemies. The Thraxi, who had been warriors for millennia, found it difficult to believe that their weapons would no longer be needed for conquest. The Valkans, who had managed galactic bureaucracy for centuries, worried about losing their purpose in a more democratic system, but gradually success stories began to emerge. Thraxi engineering skills, once used only for building weapons, were redirected toward construction projects that helped rebuild war-damaged worlds. Velkan administrative experience proved invaluable in organizing the complex logistics of feeding and housing billions of refugees from the war. The Kristex, no longer forced to hide their true capabilities, became the galaxy's master builders. They constructed new trade routes, communication networks, and exploration bases that connected distant worlds like never before. The Zephyrians, finally free to practice their ancient culture openly, became traveling teachers and diplomats. Their crystal ships carried knowledge and art between worlds, helping different species understand and appreciate each other. 5 years after the war's end, So Young stood once again in the Crystal Chamber, but now it was called the Republic. Assembly Hall, the first democratic election for galactic leadership, was taking place, and beings from across the galaxy were participating in choosing their representatives. Teho had been elected as the first Secretary General of the Galactic Republic with support from dozens of different species. His acceptance speech was broadcast to every world in the galaxy. 5 years ago, we were told that young species like humanity were too dangerous to be allowed their freedom, he said. Today we have proven that freedom is not dangerous. It is powerful. When beings are free to choose their own path, they choose cooperation over conquest, creation over destruction, hope over fear. The election results showed how much the galaxy had changed. Representatives came from species that had been enemies during the Council era. Former slave worlds now sent ambassadors to sit as equals alongside their former masters. Species that had been declared extinct had reclaimed their place in galactic society, but perhaps the most remarkable change was in humanity itself. The species that had once been seen as young and aggressive had become the galaxy's greatest advocates for peace and cooperation. Human ships that had once struck fear into Council forces now carried teachers, doctors, and engineers to worlds that needed help. Admiral Hyansu, now retired from military service, had become an explorer. His former warships were converted into research vessels that mapped unknown regions of space, searching for new worlds and new species to welcome into the galactic community. Mina led the galaxy's most ambitious construction project, a network of space stations that would serve as neutral meeting grounds where different species could trade, learn, and build friendships. The stations were marvels of cooperative engineering, built using the best technology from dozens of different worlds. Young Ho's research had moved beyond military applications to pure science. His quantum laboratories were studying the fundamental nature of reality itself, with the goal of unlocking new forms of faster-than-light travel that would open up distant parts of the galaxy. Unji had founded the Galactic Cultural Exchange, an organization dedicated to preserving and sharing the unique traditions of every species. Museums that had once displayed primitive artifacts from extinct species now celebrated living cultures and their ongoing contributions to galactic civilization. Duhyan and Sunhee commanded exploration fleets that pushed the boundaries of known space. Every year they discovered new worlds and new species, all of which were welcomed as potential partners rather than subjects to be conquered. The transformation was not complete. It might never be complete.